Okay, next recording is a combination of A26, which is only about 2.5 minutes long, and then going right into A27, which is almost an hour, 58 plus minutes long. So we'll write in the topics, but they're both going to deal with meditation process. Okay, here we go. A26, and then the much longer A27, no ink. So we're in Costa Mesa, nature preserve, and just wanted to say that every time we sit, just let go of expectation of results or desires for anything. Just kind of empty yourself out. Don't care about what you're going to achieve. Don't care about what's come before or what's coming in the future. Don't even really care or attach to anything in the present. Just be present. It's very simple. It's too simple for the thinking mind, for the mind that has desires. So if we continually just sit every day and to the best of our ability let go of that mind, the mind that wants something, that's seeking, that's having a lot of thoughts and emotions, we can just watch that. It may be there. We can just watch it. Here we may have some visitors here. Dogs. I just hope they're not too wet by the time they get to us. Hi, boy. Hiya. Hiya. Good boy. Isn't that great?
That is
it's like we took a trip to another universe, didn't it?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Look
That's
at that.
strong,
Look
like
at that energy. Beautiful. That's how we should be as humans. So we empty out. Past, future, all that, that's just the mind. Just let go of it. And the reason we choose to focus on the body and the breath is because those things are always in the present, in reality of nature. Unlike thoughts which are projecting a certain meaning, carrying us away from the present, the body and the breath are always in the present. So those are two things, if you understand, very simple but very deep. Every time you sit, let go of the mind, tune into the present. Simplest, easy way to do it is tune into the body and the breath. It's so obviously available. And we just get lost when the mind is running. So every time we sit, just let go of the running mind, don't care. And then tune into the body and the breath. Pretty clear? Yeah, that's all we have to do. So verily by his own effort man can make transformation from the chaos, the legacy of the human mind, back to his original nature of being one with the peace of all nature and the universe. That's completely possible. But you have to know how. You have to apply sufficient energy to do it. When you learn, it can be done. And this is a true victory, a triumph. You can sit down in one state that the confused mind of man of all ages has bequeathed you, that you grew up with and felt you were, identified, believing you are that. And you can get up from the end of that same session by dint of your own will and effort, having understood properly and putting yourself through the proper practices. You can get up and be completely free. But this is spiritual power. It's not understood in the world. It's something they don't know about. Okay, so I want to congratulate you. I've had the little bell, I ding it again, on a successful sitting. Just like I would say to meditation group, same thing to you. If you play with the bottom, you can get it to zip up. It just doesn't have the little handle on it, but it still works. You'll see what I mean. Just put it together and you can zip it. Just got to kind of grab it from the inside a little. So the reason we call it a successful sitting is because our butt was on the cushion at the beginning bell, and it's still there at the end bell. And in between, we did our best to follow the instructions. So we never judge the sitting. We do the sitting. So you were here. I saw it. I'm a witness. Successful sitting. It doesn't matter what happened inside. Okay? That's all good. That's all the process of cleaning and establishing and whatever it's going to do. Okay? And on any given day, it could be different until you're well trained and there'll be a lot more consistency. So don't judge, just do. Okay? We're learning a lot. So today, I introduced a little bit more sophisticated awareness or noting of our states of mind, if you will. And I would like you to please reiterate that teaching back to me. What was the new thing that we learned today?
Well, the 4 categories of attachment, aversion, restlessness, and sloth, laziness. And so a little bit more specific ability to note what the mind is doing.
Yes.
If it's starting to pull you out of that state, that natural state. I don't know how to describe it. But
yes, we could say, call it peace. Or natural state is a very good word, because that's what it is.
So the mind, for whatever reason, the mind, I don't know, doesn't want us to be there, I guess, because it's getting ignored. I don't know why. But, yeah, I mean, you can relate the shit that it pulls you out of that natural state. I couldn't find a category, a 5th cat. I mean, you said peace, but I mean some other than the 4.
Right.
I couldn't find another one. They all can be traced back to that, and so then that's
why it's such a beautiful category. I didn't make those up. The Buddha said those.
Yeah.
He called them hindrances because they hinder your natural state. See, and he had a 5th category of hindrance. Okay, that you have the very high blessed karma you are not heir to or subject to, because it's the one that can blow everything out of the water. Buddha said it. The first 4 hindrances can be worked with. If the 5th hindrance is strongly held in the mind of a worldling, the path will be very hard. The hindrance is doubt. It means doubt that the path is real. See? You don't have that. Right? And as you progress, you're going to discover less doubt and more that everything I'm saying and Buddha said and all great teachers is actually true. That will become like a bedrock. Then it moves into it. The Hindus like to say that there's a word called Shraddha, which means unshakable faith. The faith you march into a fire because you know what's right, what's true. Okay? And it's the truth that's of nature. It's not the pet peeve of your mind that you want to be true, like a political belief or a born-again Christian or something. It's not created by the mind. It comes from clear seeing. So at the beginning, unenlightened, worldly, untrained minds can have a certain percentage of doubt versus faith. And they can have very, very little faith, because the faith we're talking about is not the blind faith of the belief system. It's the knowing by their own experience. So already, in the brief time of association with me, your faith has grown, because you've seen things for yourself, because you've done the practice. You follow? So that deserves a major pat on your own back for yourself. I mean, big time. Doesn't do it. It seems silly. Good job.
Well, all I've done,
yeah.
I feel like all I've done is come out of ignorance a little bit. That doesn't...
a big, big thing.
It's a big thing, but you know, when it's your own self that's was keeping you out of any kind of intelligence, you don't really feel like you've achieved. You feel like, I'm a fucking idiot.
You should, because it's the most profound thing. Because it's not our own self that was keeping it out. It was the rape that happened before we had opposing power. You follow? That's why. So the coming out is your own self. Your own self is glorious and true and free. It is the thing which is victorious, which breaks out of the prison. Jesus said, I have overcome the world. That's the thrill that nothing can equal, that the human beings don't know. Okay? That will enliven your body. It shall quicken them, and they shall ride as wings of eagles. That's what he was talking about. I get it. It's a rush of complete power that's genuine. It got nothing to do with ego or power over anybody.
You know, one of the things that...
spiritual truth.
That I think is really kind of a double whammy that's only recently kind of developed in our culture, this attachment to always being entertained.
Yes.
And I see it now.
Carries over into so-called spiritual pursuits.
Well,
yes.
I see so many, the younger generation, God, I can't believe I'm old enough to actually say that.
It's worse.
It's getting worse. And as technology goes, and as they'll be able to do direct sort of mental links and beyond 3D.
They'll lose their soul even more. Even more.
Because I had developed a certain degree of that being in video, like the work I did.
Totally.
And so that made me very, almost an expectation that I deserved, but then you could never be entertained. And so what I was left with was always feeling bored, or, oh, fuck.
Which could be some of the motivation for the drug.
Oh.
To replace the void. You see?
For alcohol nullifies, but cannabis
brings in something good.
It makes everything holy again. It makes everything miraculous.
Right. And see what happens is, when you sit in your own natural state, out of your own conditioning, you're there. It's miraculous.
I get it.
See? So you don't need anything. That's the whole point. See?
And things are, I mean, it is a gradual awakening.
Right.
Things have not been huge, but I've noticed that I'm not bored anymore. Like, I'm entertained by...
Well, you see, in meditation, ultimately, when you purely learn to meditate, there is no boredom and no hindrance. Even the feeling of boredom that could arise, you could investigate. It could become very interesting. Oh,
yeah. In this sitting, I had a whole lot of discomfort. And I cycled it, and I actually... It was like I got it in a very tight little wave.
Okay.
And it was just kind of spinning, and I just went into it.
You had some physical discomfort.
Yeah, my leg.
And you were able to work into that instead of letting it distract you from a meditative state.
Exactly.
That's it. Because normally what happens, as I've said before, every experience we have, whether it's in meditation or outside of it, is a binary process. In meditation, we get, and the two components of the binary process are the physical sensation, the neurons firing, the muscle fibers, whatever, and the mental reaction to it.
Yeah.
So in meditation, we become less victimized and eventually master of the second binary component. You with me?
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
that's what you're doing, even unconsciously, I'm pointing out. That's what's happening. So you see how you move out of, if you have no ability not to react, you're a slave. If you have a little ability not to react, you're a free man. If you have maximum ability not to react and see the whole situation, you're a master. Slavery to freedom to mastery. You follow? That's the direction. That's the arrow we want to go. That happens with awareness and mindfulness. The other direction of the arrow, no mindfulness, we go down, down, down.
But, mindfulness isn't another way to say mindfulness just an ability to see what's really there?
Correct. Buddha said enlightenment, seeing what is. Nobody understood. It was too simple. Well, of course I see what is. You don't. Because you're like this. You don't. The average person does it. Neither inside themselves nor outside. Does this reflect clearly what's around? All you experience is a distortion pattern, which was the rape that happened before we had any opposing power. We had no spiritual power as children. And there it is. So here's the answer. Put it down and keep putting it down. Pay attention. Deepen your insight. So tell me more. It's very good. I know you're getting some of what's going on. It's wonderful. Tell me when we first embarked on the new practice of seeing the four categories. By the way, excellent observation. Basically, every hindrance from peace does fall into one of those categories. One way or the other. You saw that much. Were you able to kind of
And the first two are like we've talked about before, the first two are really the same.
Correct. You either want something positively or you want something away. But they can have slightly different qualities. So that's why they were delineated by Buddha and the great masters. They make sense. It's good to be able to, know the difference between a grasping and a pushing away, even though they're both basically a victim's behavior. In other words, you have to react. See, a master can stay still.
Yeah, you're not. In both cases, you've lost power in that condition.
See? So remember what we're building here is SP, staying power. That's why we sat a little longer today. I'm training you by increments. We'll sit longer, become stronger, become like a fucking mountain, man. Like in Zen, they say you move from the leaf in the wind. What power does this have? If there's no breeze, it'll fall down. If there's a breeze, it has to go. As Jesus said, they go where the wind listeth. No power. So in Zen, they say you move from this state, a leaf or a blade of grass in the wind, to a mountain. That's the point. Not a mountain that's stone and dead, a living human being that's powerful in their stillness and internal composure and ability to be unmoved like a mountain. But they have deep feeling. You'll have more feeling. You have more understanding. You have more
compassion,
thrilling, more compassion, everything.
Empathy, because you're powerful enough to...
And your actions will be correct. You'll have the compassion sometimes of a surgeon that has to cut. Sometimes, if it's needed, if right? But you won't be attached to that. You know, you'll point out. That's all you can do. It won't be a coddling. It won't be a weakness that goes down with the victim. See, that happens to a lot of people. You know, and that's not what
I think people
true strength is.
I mean, I think people, and I am struggling with this. You have to find that compromise between the truth and trying to be effective with other people. And I think
Correct.
if you can come at it from a good place, but
Yeah.
it just gets so
If you
corrupt.
meditate more, it becomes easier. Because look at Dalai Lama. The whole career is helping people all over the world, and people like that, they're bodhisattvas. But he does 7-8 hours of meditation while the rest of us are sleeping and jerking off. You know what I mean?
I don't know
That's
how.
why he keeps it.
Yeah.
Because, I know how. Because the deep rest from the meditative state negates much of the need for regular sleep. That's why. You'll hear later, it might have been on the first tape that we heard with Shinzen already. He lived with a Chinese master who didn't sleep at all. He laid down for 4 hours to rest his body. That's it. Some of them don't even lay down, just go into sitting.
Powerful.
Yep.
Wow.
So that, and it's true. I can tell you it's true. Because in
They
my
just go
moments,
into that blissful place.
yeah,
And they're
so
just,
deep you're getting deep renewal.
I understand what the mother was trying to say. Like, you're doing some weird healing with your body going on. Like, it's...
Here's the thing. Regular sleep is the poor man's yoga, the unintelligent man's yoga. In other words, God, the intelligence, our father, mother, whatever it is that created us, it knew enough to turn us off at regular cycle every night so we can renew. Otherwise, the body burns out real quick. Human beings don't know to do that. So it does it for you. Okay? But it's not as deep as what you can do when you start to cooperate with the plant. I understand, Father, I'm supposed to be at rest and conserve my energy. Okay, I'll go with your program. Thank you. You know better than me. That's how you'll feel if you put it in that anthropomorphic thing. But you feel that deeply in your heart. And you feel the love. And you feel the protection. And you feel the power. You have to read the Psalms sometime. I get turned on by that. There's a thing called Psalm 91. And he says, thousands shall die at your right hand and many more at your left, and you shall walk through unscathed. What? I feel that, you know. It's like just, listen, whatever happens, you won't know. You gain a confidence that's not of the worldly mind. The ego doesn't know that confidence. You gain an ability to know that you will overcome that situation, even though you don't know how. And you become more and more comfortable with that. Worldly mind is uncomfortable, and the battle goes on, even in the person, until they're fully enlightened. In myself, that battle goes on. I need to know how I'm going to take care of myself. But if I go deep into my spiritual state and give homage to that and practice like I should, you know, if I goof off, then I'll lose it too. So I keep on, right? And then I have that confidence. No worry. Right? And it happens like that. So Jesus said, if you truly understand, if you truly meet the Father, I mean, if you truly practice, thy cup shall be runneth over. Thy blessings will be pressed down 7 times 7. There'll be so much bliss coming out. Just amazing. But we have to go through, that's part of the anabolic, those things building up. We have to go through the catabolic. There's no shortcut. You have to see your shit first. You don't have to do anything to it. Just have to see it. So that's what I'm slowly but surely introducing you into. Okay? So can you see the great advantage, the brilliance of the practice of sitting there and knowing your mental state?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
It's a brilliant thing. It's only a spiritual genius could come up with that.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that has become, you know, just so much of my awareness is how I've used food as very much a drug, you know, because I prided myself on having just a really good physique all the time, and I've gone to pot.
Right.
So, like, I've been able to now, where I haven't eaten anything today, I ate very little yesterday, like, I feel...
Until nighttime when you ate 2 meals. You ate
Oh, last night. Yeah, you're right. See, that's what happens when I get numb.
Out of your
I just
power.
start eating and drinking and consuming, and
That's
and
my
it's
whole
a drug.
point. Yeah, there's no morality on it. Eventually you'll see the fact of what the masters were saying. That's all. And that it's healthier to not have anything be your drug.
I know.
To be totally free.
And alcohol...
And you see, but I get it. There's no support system for that. I must be some kind of very rare person in the world. There are others like me, but that's the point. And I just feel blessed for that. I don't feel like a big deal for it. I say, thank God. Whatever I must have gone through another life, whatever the reason is. But you can start to see that it's real. That's why they say hang out with a teacher or satsang, hang out with other people, because at least you have an example. At least you see it's possible. See? You hang out with anybody else. everybody does the same thing. It's a little difficult. Let me medicate it.
Oh, I had so
You
many
know?
girls that would tell me,
Yeah.
because I would go through girls and they try to find their angle to get close to you, and then they'd
Yes.
say things like to me, like you don't have anybody in your life that's honest to you. You know, like I would get this from women on occasion. Or if we got in a fight and they're trying to be bitchy to me,
Right.
oh, you surround yourself with, and I'll say, no, I have my psychologist, or the guy who's giving me these pills that eventually almost killed me. and this one girl actually said,
He was a real friend, huh? Yeah.
She said, you tell him exactly what you want to tell him. Because I would tell her about the sessions, and she said, well, what'd you and your doctor talk about? And I'd say, oh, I talked, and it was all ego about how the people just don't understand me, and my brilliance can't shine.
Right, I get it. I share
should.
that with you even. The thing is, the difference is, up to this point, because now you're learning, because you're saying it means you're aware of it, I have that clearly identified as my ego, so that never carries too far in my case, you follow? That's the irony of it. I know my fucking glory and it's not appreciated, but it's okay. It's, because it's not my glory really. It's the Father in me that doeth the works, as Jesus said. It's just, that's how it is. So the girl was pointing out something to you insightfully?
Well, just saying, and it was very true, that I did develop a certain degree of power.
Right.
And
you did in the world, you did, because money is what it is.
Yeah,
Let's face it.
And whatever spirituality I had earlier in life, I think got completely corrupted because then I went into this mode of I had the money and I thought I had the power. I had to control my moods. So the drugs were doing that.
Yes.
But numb just a little bit, but then
Typical
speed it up
pattern,
a little bit.
Yes.
And then the women, I had to
God,
control that.
You weren't destroyed by it. You have the awareness of it. You're sitting here now, and you don't see it as clearly as I do. You're definitely embarking on a new chapter of life completely in a very deep existential way. That's what you're doing. That's why I showed up. That's how it works. It wasn't my intention. He arranged it, if you will. Okay? Jesus also said, easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle. That's not that easy, right? He said, that's easier than a rich man to enter heaven. Doesn't mean you can't have money. He means a man attached to possessions. In his mind, internally. Okay? So, if you amass things on the outside and they control you, then you're very attached internally. But you could have what you've already learned how to do and have more abundance than maybe other people, and be unattached to it and be completely free and at peace. It's not a hindrance per se. It's about the internal. A person can go renounce and wear only a loincloth and be really attached to their ego, and that Jesus would call him a rich man. He's attached to all those inner possessions. He's not free.
What I did...
That's what it means when it says a rich man. It's not about money. It means a person that's hoarding their internal possession as an ego that really is identified with everything that's in their psyche. See, when we're spiritually free, we're moving toward more emptiness, shunyata, zero, freedom. Follow that?
Yeah.
It will all start to make sense as you keep practicing.
Well, here's how I now interpret events and how I can now see so clearly what my path is in the future. Is I'd built up, I was incredibly disciplined when I was younger.
Right.
With the trombone.
I think you had to be.
Oh, it's incredibly,
Yeah.
and the jogging.
Even to bring it up to where you could earn that much money, you had to be with what your field was.
I was just shining.
Everybody's trying to do it. That shows me that you do have that discipline.
But I got destroyed by my success.
Yes.
Because I'm coming back to this awareness of a disciplined bliss.
Yes.
And so then what happened is I had so much material success, and then I shifted into I'm never going to suffer. I'm never going to.
That's the danger
have
of material
the
success. It makes you think that you don't need discipline.
So then I lost all the money.
Right.
And this last phase of my life has been characterized by the food and the numbing.
Yes.
The numbing without any money, but food just doesn't cost
Right.
anything.
Because the original state that was under there had a chance to come up into your awareness. So the unenlightened's reaction is always to make it feel better.
Yeah, and I was
the enlightened person gets past that. We're not about making it feel better. We're not about band-aids. We're not about medicine. We're not about analgesics, prophylactics, whatever the word you want to use. We're about fucking curing it. Do you understand?
Yeah, it's about not
go
being
to the
distracted.
cause and curing it so that the shit will come up and out and be gone. There's a very powerful verse in the Hindu scripture that's called Bhagavad Gita. You may have come across that.
Yeah, that's the most
it means
famous
Song
one.
of God, yes. And in there they personify the Absolute as Krishna. He shows up in the fable as the charioteer for Arjuna, who represents the worldling struggling to achieve, higher life and realizing the sorrow of life and all that. It's a very good book to read. I have several copies of it. I'll pick one. Maybe that's helpful for you to read. Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna personified is God personified. He's his charioteer, but in disguise, and he reveals himself as the absolute being, as God, as Krishna. And it says many things. The whole thing is a beautiful teaching about how to live properly. But the one thing he says, which is germane to what I'm saying now, in the fire of knowledge, all actions, meaning karmas, the results of actions, all your stuff will be burned to ashes. In other words, in the fire of spiritual realization, they'll use the word jnana, which is higher knowledge, not intellectual knowledge or conceptual belief system knowledge, but actually feeling deep knowledge of what you truly are and what reality is, what God is, and so on. Feeling that, okay, in that knowledge, the saying goes, when translated to English, all karmas, that means all your stuff, shall be burned to ashes. So then your problems, they say, what remains in terms of your stuff in your mind shall have the power of a burnt rope. It's just ashes. It may look like a rope still, and you touch it, has no power, it can't do anything, it can't bind you. See? And that's what happened. I can tell you it's true. I'm not a complete master, but I can tell you it's true. I transcended so much shit that I'm talking completely from experience that it's true. So see, in my mind, there's zero doubt. My thing, rest of my life is logistics. I gotta work it out somehow and keep practicing. And when my shit comes, I know the difference. I know what to do. I can go into the place where it burns. I can create the crucible where that will burn on its own. Not my ego trying to burn it or push it away. It's not an aversion state of mind. It's going deeper and deeper into my being. And there's a natural process of cleansing. The Father wants to heal us, if you want to use that language. That's what's going on. So now tell me, when you first started in our sitting today, with the new parameter of looking at the categories of mental states, could you just specify a little bit more, like what you saw or how that went for you? Just give me a little report of that.
Oh, sure. I mean, everything comes up in a meditation. I mean, there's it's the easiest thing for me to go into is because I spend so much time there, is work and the girls at work that I like. And
is that some of the things that come up during the sitting time?
Yeah,
or not?
Yeah,
I'm asking specifically about today, and I'd like to know how you categorized it.
Oh, well,
just want to get an idea of what went on when you first went to do that practice, because this is a very important, a basic thing, practice that we want to have, being able to know what our mind is up to at a given moment.
Well, my mind, the end state of my mind is trying to, I don't know how to be by myself.
Okay.
So I'm looking for a little part of me is trying to is in a panic about being alone.
Okay.
So
okay.
It's trying. It always in it.
Now, how do you mean in general in life, like not having a partner, or do you mean how do you mean?
Yeah, I think
alone?
I think it's a woman. I think it's because I was raised, by my strong grandmother figure, so I've always had a strong.
Right. I was raised by a strong woman too.
Yeah,
and I went through the thing of being a victim and even an enabler of psychotic or fucked up women. I totally went through that.
Because we put too much faith in them.
Yes. Everything. Now you're my mommy and daddy and sister that are gone. That was me. And then they either leave you high and dry or you come to a horrible, violent end or whatever it would be. And then, but see, homie don't play that anymore. Follow? You've been through it, that could get burned, so it doesn't have to happen.
Well, and then there's the thought, there's always like, you're a guy, you're strong, but you're, like my grandfather was world-renowned musician, but at home he was weak. He was Norman, he's absent-minded professor, but he was...
Because that's the lure, that's the debilitation of a woman. It looks good on the outside, like it's completing you, but it's enabling you to stay untransformed.
Yeah.
To basically stay weak. Because it appeases in an unhealthy way. It doesn't lead to it. It'll give you, okay, things are not so great, but I can have an orgasm with her tonight, and everything's all right. It hasn't changed anything. It gave you the Band-Aid of an orgasm. That's all. You see, the spiritual process is fucking ruthless. It's about facing the truth, but then you fucking cure it. Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
No more Band-Aids. Fucking cure.
Yeah, because it's all about truth. And you can't, if you anything else and you're just lying to yourself, and that's mind playing tricks on you.
That's what I said, and because I'm so devoted, in some ways I represent that. So in relationships where I know anybody for more than 10 minutes, the truth has got to come up. You follow?
And it's very interesting how the truth is never as bad as you think it's going to be. And it actually, I think the big joke, if there is a big joke in all this, is like the people who hold their arm up for 12 years.
Yes.
You know, they probably think that, and it probably is, their deliverance into their spirituality. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? You're an idiot? It's like, that's their little bliss.
That shows their will could triumph over what people. It shows, in a way, it shows one aspect that may be, considered not so healthy mentally.
But that represents the sheer discipline and the bliss that brings.
Divine power.
That's what I forgot.
Correct. That's right. Because when we are self-sufficient and feel our own power, we get happy. You see?
Because you don't have any dependence.
At the expense of no one. And only at the benefit of others. See, the worldly mind wants to be a barnacle and suck the tit of everything it sees and draw. And companies like PIMCO and everybody keys into that, and it keeps promoting it. The spiritual path is becoming so strong you don't need anything, so anything that comes out of you is love for somebody else. That's all. And you're not attached to that love, so you don't suffer from it like attached love. But people don't know about it. But that's so fuck them if they don't know about it, I say. Fuck them if they can't take a joke. I see it, I'm going to fucking practice.
Yeah.
Fuck you. That's my spiritual way of putting it, right? I'm glad you lived in New York, so you understand.
Yeah.
So see, we can do that, and then we no longer have to suckle at the teat of the world, as somebody said. You can really be free. And then you can really enjoy yourself. You can enjoy your karma. I love being me. Not in an egoistic way. It's the right thing. This was the path. Whatever the fuck I got to do, however difficulties I have, and I go through shit, just like lonely. I wish there was this, but I'm not conquered by it anymore. I've risen enough to where I see that's conditioning. That's not my truth. That's not what I am. There's a beautiful little story they have in Hinduism that says there was a lion that was abandoned by its parents for whatever reason. Say they got killed by hunters or they had to run, and they left them there. And it sometimes happens in the wild that one species adopts another. So he's adopted by a bunch of sheep.
Did this really happen?
This is the story. It could be. There's cases of it in history that's similar. And he starts to act like a sheep because he's raised like a sheep. He's bleeding and blah, 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 blah. And so now, fast forward, 7-8 years, he's an adolescent lion with the sheep. He's grown up with them, and he's bleeding, and he acts passive like a sheep, and a pride of lions comes down with their big leader, Daddy Lion, and all the sheep run, and there's a big catastrophe, and the big Daddy Lion comes and grabs that teenage lion, and he brings him over to the pond, and he says, "Look, you're a lion." And that was his enlightenment. He knew what he was. Didn't have to act like a sheep anymore. Fucking inspiring or what? That's what it's all about. That's what these yogis and these people, that's why I admired them since I'm a kid, because they had the right truth that liberates a human spirit, that you don't have to take bullshit.
Isn't it ironic that as humans like to teach that we're beyond animals?
Yeah.
But yet we're below animals.
We do shit that animals would never even think of.
So by trying to teach that,
correct,
because our minds can conceive of that we're better, we become worse.
You're exactly right. That's the hypocrisy of the unenlightened mind, for sure. You hang around with any wild animal or even any dog that hasn't been corrupted by humans too much, or cat, will teach you how to live much happier. When you're hungry, you eat. When you gotta poop, you stretch, you rest, you do activity, you enjoy the moment, because they haven't been removed. They don't have the curse of the intellect. They can't understand as deeply and penetrate into deeper layers of reality like we can with our minds, but they're more in peace. They're with the Tao, as the Chinese would say. They're in the natural state. Okay? So we've been approaching things a lot from the Buddhist and Hindu sort of Indian framework of things so far. Now, if you can make it, which means you have to wake up, you come tomorrow and have the class class with me and Corey, and you get a lot more of the Chinese flavor, because that's how I work with her more. I expose her to some of the things we're doing now in terms of the meditation, but we're going to do a lot more Qigong and flowing. She knows that whole form and so on. So even if you're a semi-participant and semi-spectator, I think it'll be very good for you to come.
Okay.
And I think if the weather's like this, you got to get to my house, or you got to get to the location. I'm not exactly sure which, if I'm going north or south, but either way, if you have to go to the location on your own, it'll take you about 30 minutes probably, maybe 35, no more than 40. Okay, and I'll give you the complete instructions, write it out, and you won't depend on the GPS, although it's in a grid where it's square, so it would probably work fine. It's not like Huntington Beach. Basically go up Beach Boulevard about another 7 miles from where Swiss Chalet was.
Okay.
That's about all.
Okay.
And then make a left and go about another 1.5 miles, 2 miles, and that's where we are. It's in a city called Cyprus. Have you heard of that? That's a midpoint for us to meet. Cool. We're about 20 miles apart, and that point is about 10 miles from both of us. So we can do that, and yeah. So you're able to kind of see an attached state positively or negatively. You could have enough wherewithal to see, okay, this mind is wanting something, or this mind wants to push something away. Could you see
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Okay. And you could see restlessness?
Oh, yeah.
And you could see sloth, whether physical or mental, because they're mixed. Good.
You know,
and you have moments, hopefully, you could see and know, I'm at peace.
Believe it or not, you showing up at my house this morning was the best lesson of today.
Yep.
Because that was sloth. That was laziness.
Yeah. But it wasn't volitional, so it's not as bad as if, it was...
But it was still just not participating in
exactly.
reality. And that's just as bad.
Right.
And that's what'll really piss a woman off. Go through that autopilot where you're not really there. I don't remember saying that. Like that. I know.
I'm not really important to you. Oh, I've had those where you could just, oh my God.
And you just go lazy.
You didn't give the full attention at a moment, or just thought of something else that wasn't her, and it's like the greatest disaster. Everything was gone. The relationship is threatened now.
Yep.
Please, if you're
I broke up with a girl this year because I was driving home from Silicon Valley. I had this job I found, and I stopped and got dinner.
Yeah.
And she had made me dinner as a surprise, and I got home, and she could tell.
That was a make or break for her.
Well, she was like, Did you eat? And I said, and I saw the dinner. I said, no. So she went out. She went out to my jacket and pulled out the receipt and saw the time.
God.
And that was it. That was the end of the relationship.
Yeah. See, that's all fucked up.
Crazy.
See, you can have the beautiful pride of never having to go through anything like that again when you grow spiritually. You don't have to. And if you're going to indulge at certain times and use them for the whores like they are, that's as deep as it have to go. But you don't have to hurt or abuse anybody. You can just be clear, and that's
And you don't have to give up your freedom to cohabitate with them.
That's right.
Fuck that.
But the main thing, it's probably ordained, if you will, for you. It's in your karmic path right now to have a space where there's not a woman occupying your attention and draining your energy. Because truly, you'll learn more when we do the Qigong more. The Jing, or the low-level raw material energy, like if we use the refining of, say, gasoline, or even better, rocket fuel as our metaphor, the crude oil is your hormonal secretions, sperm or ovum for the woman. So the unenlightened, that just goes down and out, and it recreates material, or it's just wasted, so you recreate physical life. But what the spiritual process is, both India and China knew it, that raw material is conserved, changes to qi, which is internal vitality and power, and that refines further to shen, which is spiritual life. Okay? So literally, that's why it's not a moral issue at all, why these great masters are often celibate. And even a natural celibacy will happen, because as your own internal desires and mind are transforming, it's like you can still understand the excitement and once in a while whatever, but it starts to become less of a drug and a pull on you. You become powerful even over that. That's why, from my position, I look at most men, there's a vagina under their dress. They're fucking pussy whipped. There's no fucking balls there. Because they can't say no to a woman. So when I say, oh, she's my other half, and that, I really have to smile quietly to myself. I sometimes have to really restrain a chuckle. This fucking asshole thinks he's a man, and he's under the influence of a little thing that long because he wants to put a fucking protuberance in it and get a thrill. He has no more mental power than that. You follow?
Yeah.
And that's the case of most men.
Well, the problem
And they go downhill. And the problem, I'll let you finish it.
Yeah.
Let me finish it. The mistake that we make as men. Women do it too in a slightly different way, in like the inverse way. But say for men, we equate emotionally and psychologically our well-being with the ability to have the physical orgasm and the cuddling physically, which is incorrect, because our spirit doesn't need that. That's the body and the psyche attached to the body feeling comforted, but that maintains all the prisoner's karma. It doesn't change. You never get out.
For me, it's a little different.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm beyond. I think because I'm older. Like, it's not about the orgasm. It's not about the fit. It's about.
I get that.
But what is really important.
Yes.
And this is something I'm really attached to that I need to get rid of.
Right. Well, this is what we're talking about. Go ahead.
Is the ego of having that female attention, not just from one woman, but from others. There's a big part of that in me now. I can say, I'm seeing the truth and I want to do my way. There's a part of me that wants to get more chicks.
Sure,
too.
I get it.
And
I
it
understand.
goes way up.
I understand. So you're saying it's partially what we call third chakra, or sort of feeling power. But is it also? It's not fourth, but it's related in a certain way. You see, I won't go into the whole chakra theory, but it kind of can recycle through and repeat many times in a different variation. But that aside, is part of it that you want to feel loved or safe, or like there's a home? Yeah. See, because we all have women, that. That's human.
Yeah.
Okay? But what I'm saying
and I don't know how to get that from other
women.
Is
what I'm saying. It's a weakness from the spiritual point of view. The reason is, what you don't know and that I know, is that when you achieve spiritually sufficiently, that void, that weakness goes away. You are nurtured and loved by that immaterial thing. Then, if it's in your path to have a partner, that's how it would go. But it won't come from the void like it does for 99.9% of human beings, because they can't function and don't think they're complete without it. That's a different thing. That's why there have been spiritual masters that are married, and there have been those that are single. And if their transformation happened while they were married, so much the better for their wife. Their love would transform into a higher love. That's all. They could still have sex, maybe not. It wouldn't be about needing that void filled.
The autobiography.
That illness was cured. Do you follow?
Yeah.
So I'll be so bold as to say
by the real
that's
thing.
An illness. Correct. Like I'll say it again. The Zen master said, when you're unenlightened, you roam around the earth looking for your physical parents. He meant for that nurturing and love and sex, all the lower level of needs. Early childhood, infancy, early childhood, and adolescent needs. That's what he meant. You go around looking for your parents. He says, when you grow up, when you meet Buddha, when you come to enlightened mind, you meet your real parents. No, that's that which gives you the true nurturing that the illusory parents could never provide, even the best of them human, because they were human only. Does it make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay, so tell me what you're going to say about Yogananda. That's autobiography.
Just that his parents admitted to him they only had sex once a year. And
he talked about that in the beginning. I've forgotten that. I haven't read that in a few years.
That's a powerful. Yeah. I mean, he goes in. I don't want to get sidetracked on all the weird shit that goes on, but his memory of when he was a baby.
Right.
He has a. I mean that.
Yeah, I
believe in that.
First time I read that book, to me it was fantasy. Who are they kidding? But the things that were in it that I liked were fine. As I've grown, my mind's open to more. I don't know what the limit of power is.
Well, from LSD specifically. I've read so much because it's less, but I have always had an interest in that stuff.
Right.
That's common occurrence in LSD.
I see.
You're a baby and you remember it.
You've got that perspective I don't know about, but I don't doubt it, because men and I respect you as an intelligent, but I don't think you're a dumb person, nor is Ram Dass or Timothy Leary. They were smart people. So, even if they're confused emotionally, not masters or whatever, they could be getting some insights that are valid. See, so I'm never a guy that condemns that out of hand. I'll listen to that.
I don't have to be subject to the whole Western rationalism, because I had enough of my mother of the 60s or whatever.
Maybe so.
To believe in.
See, that was a good influence.
Yeah, I'm saying that
in that way, for ultimate, that's correct.
Having an open mind.
And you always got to remember that however flawed or whatever pain they had to go through, they did the best they could do. That's all people do. That's how we can come to healing. Like, I never felt a conscious resentment from my dad, but maybe some of them were, why did you die? And, with a 9. And then my mom, you couldn't replace somewhere. But I always knew that was karmically determined. There was never any volition to do something bad, as I'm sure is the case with your parents. There was never volitionally an abandonment or whatever other fucked up things went on.
Either.
Yeah.
Although I did.
See, well, we go through it because it's normal.
Issues, yeah.
But of course, major, that's my main one, sure. But you see, I'm living proof that can be transcended. I'm one of the more self-sufficient people that I know. I think a lot of people couldn't do what I'm doing at this point.
A lot of people would have been destroyed.
Yes. And still, I can have doubt. Well, where's it going to go? And I'll be old and alone and in the street, and nobody will ever love me. I can't even buy a woman. I have no money. If I indulge that, where am I going?
Yeah, you'd lose any power that you had.
Yeah,
and you
where
can't
am I
build
going?
up.
And the point is, I don't have to because I have tools.
Mm-hmm.
You follow? I have tools to transcend. God-given. I've been shown. And I can relate it all. I can read any scripture, whatever. I can meet anybody, and right away I have direct perception of what's useful and what's bullshit. I have no problem. There's a piercing clarity. So it would be great after I read the Sadhu book. If this guy's in the United States, let's look him up.
Oh yeah, I
visit
found him on Facebook. That'd be awesome.
That would be so cool.
He's like a Jewish intellectual, New York Jewish intellectual.
Yeah,
who
that's
just
all right.
has the beard.
Sometimes they can go past it. You know what I mean? They can have that level as a mask. That's fine. People that really realize. This is my mask, but inside I know what I am, so I don't really care that much how my mask is received. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. If it's effective, great. People don't get
Otherwise,
it. What can I do?
Cut your hair and like a good soldier gone to that interview and fucking said the words.
Correct. Right.
And then been miserable driving and then...
Right, and get kiss ass to white people who I don't respect at all.
Yeah. I mean, fuck, there's got to be a better way.
There is. It's going to be all right. It's all going to be all right. That's why I was happy yesterday. That transformation happened in the booth yesterday, like when I came over and told you last night.
I mean, I wish there was a way for you to work outside and make money working outside.
We'll figure it out. It could be you may have been placed in my path to take it to another stage that I can't even see. You know?
Well,
I was placed in yours. I mean, I have come to trust in that infinite intelligence that is so much higher than what my little mind could figure out. I've really come to trust that. That's why I really do relate. I hate to say it, I read those old Jews and the old prophet, Old Testament prophets. It's very inspiring.
Well, how cool
because the way they talk about it is pretty amazing.
How cool would it be for me to rent a house?
Wouldn't it be cool?
A big house.
Yeah.
I mean, a fucking big house.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's quiet. Someplace where, I mean,
put your
let's
energy.
say we were getting the pot people in.
Put your energy in that direction.
Come out. Yeah.
Hey, if you got a place, it won't be limited to pot people. Because once it's a regular place, if it's a situation like that, with a large space, then my original plan when I moved here with my girlfriend, who turned out to be an unloyal piece of shit at the beginning, I rented a 3-bed. That's a whole long story. But anyway, I love her in retrospect. I
can afford a good rent.
If that happens, then all bets are off. We can cultivate a lot of different things and turn that into something real. And it'll stay real. If I'm in charge of that department, there won't be any bullshit.
Well, I moved in with a roommate on purpose because it's a new city.
Right.
You know,
it's an experience that had to happen, and there's probably some learning there. You know what I mean?
Well, it was good and bad. It was bad in the sense that I always had him as a worst case to compare myself to. So that allowed me to think I was okay drinking more.
Got it.
Last night's the first time I've gotten kind of good and drunk. I mean, I've been drinking wine, but last night I drank vodka.
Right.
I mean, I don't know.
Just look at his face when he's in a sober state. He's very unhappy.
Oh.
He's just an unhappy person.
And he's so
Which is sad.
scared.
And look, he's got a nice woman there. He probably can't relate to her other than out of his pain, wherever that is visiting him, friend or whatever.
I think she's coming down from San Francisco. She's more spiritual.
I got the vibe right away. That's a quality person. And he may be so wrapped up in his pain here, all around him. And he's in, like, you don't even meet him. You meet this. You don't even see the person.
Well, he
that's what we have to do.
He believes, his mind has tricked him into thinking that he really is living this kind of great existence.
Yeah. I really had to laugh at it later at the night. It re-echoes, I'm drug-free.
Oh.
Come on.
He's so delusional. And,
yes.
And he loves the ego attention because he wrote his book about how much he drinks and how he fucks all this pussy.
Right.
That's his book. That's his identity.
Right. It's all he knows. That's his compensation. You see, until you have spiritual realization, Damon, everything that these people are doing under the guise of something else, it's one thing. It's compensation. They don't have the real goods. It's facsimile. It's fucking NutraSweet. It ain't sugar. It's fool's gold. It ain't gold.
Do you see what happens?
That's what they're all doing.
When you come around, he immediately goes reflexively defensive.
Yes.
He's incredibly defensive when you're around.
Right.
Because, I know what he's thinking. He's thinking, what the fuck do you know?
Right.
You don't fucking know
shit.
Right.
I get that.
That's what's going on there.
Yeah, which is fine.
And
that's how it has to be. It's all right. That's the nature of when different levels meet. It's always like
he
that.
He wants to go at you.
My job is to have compassion for that. That's all. You know what I mean?
And I want you guys to kind of have a verbal spar.
You look at Jesus' life, he would walk into the dens of iniquity. The prostitutes, the thieves, the killers. First of all, he had no fear. And then second of all, they either scattered or changed when he went there. In other words, when the light is brought into the darkness scatters or it becomes light. It's not that the light goes away. You know what I mean? But I don't have any problem. I don't have an attachment or a job. His karma is his karma. I would never get into something with him that I would be attached to. If anything, out of compassion, I would point something out. Only if he asked me. If he never asked me, I would never say a word of anything about him or his life.
I kind of wish he would.
It's not my place.
Not my place. When you're around each other.
And it's not your place to even wish that either. Let him have his own karma.
Oh, well, who else in this world is going to try to even reach him
well,
if he reaches out?
If he's not at the point where he opens to it, then it wouldn't matter anyway who reached to him, you, me, or God himself. You follow? That's the point.
He's just going to be dead.
Yeah, he may be. We don't know. There's factors that are sometimes unpredictable. Something else could happen that might make him wake up. That's all. All you can do in the meantime, love with detachment. That's all you could do. That's what all the masters ever said, and I totally concur. I agree with it. That's why my life remains relatively easy, because I know that. You know, I don't make trouble for myself. Their karma's theirs, mine is mine. What can we do? See, so it's wonderful that you're aware enough to keep going on your path. You get it. You're smart enough. So my original intuition is correct. You're smart enough. You do have the discipline. It's just rusty.
Yeah,
and we're going to learn. Yeah, we're going to learn to apply it. Yeah, we're going to learn to apply it to these new things, new disciplines. See, you're learning stuff here that's actually going to be cured. No more compensation and band-aids and palliative.
I can feel parts of my body starting to wake up, too. I mean, it's this body awareness thing. I'd gotten into just being unaware.
Sure.
Fuck.
Well, that whole mentality, goes along with taking substances, unfortunately.
It does.
Yeah. So at least you're wise enough to know that and honest enough with yourself to admit it. Because it doesn't matter if I see it. It matters if you see it. You follow? It doesn't matter what I see. But if you see it, and I'm helpful in that process of you seeing it for yourself, great. That's my function. Right? So if you stay clear about that, you can have a good relation with anybody. And then anybody that's not able to have a relationship, then you don't need to have one with them. You follow?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful freedom. It's a beautiful freedom. I thank whatever it is that created me every day for that. Thank you. In my own meditations, I go within and say, thank you for the opportunity to practice, the ability to practice, and the willingness to practice. And I sometimes go like this, the opportunity is here, the ability is here, the body-mind system, and the willingness from my deeper knowledge that it's the right thing to do. So I'm thankful for that every day, and I reinforce it. So every day I have the opportunity, I have the ability, and I have the willingness means, like Muhammad Ali used to say, the boxer, you can't lose with the stuff I use. That's what he used to say. That turns me on. I like that saying. So I guess we'll pack it up and get out of the cold. You all right? Not too cold? Right?
No, fine.
Okay, good. Hey, you're working for standard parking now.
Yeah.
That jacket. That's actually a pretty good jacket they gave me.
It's a cool jacket.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It works. You can even zip it, but you just have to play with it a little bit at the bottom. What else? Yeah, so that's good. We'll reserve the Qigong for tomorrow. I think we covered a good amount of ground today. And I feel you really got the new material of the just seeing the categories of mind and what it's doing. See, because it can only really function as an effective demon in the darkness.
Yep.
Once you bring light to it, it starts to lose its power.
Yeah, things get pretty simple once you have a real
Totally.
truth.
Well, look again at not to belabor the point, you would think I'm a Christian as much time as I say Jesus, but I remember he wasn't a Christian either. Yeah. So when he was tempted by Satan, basically, I'll put it in modern language, Satan says, look at these in the wilderness, right? It means he's going through the internal thing in his mind. It's a metaphor, right? So to personify it for the common people who can't understand, they only have a dualistic mind, they don't understand everything occurs inside the mind. And so you say, okay, Jesus, who represents God and good, was met by Satan, who represents temptation and bad. So now we have the scenario. Satan comes after Jesus is just at the verge of his 40-day fast, his overcoming of the flesh and being so strong spiritually. And so, by the way, there's parallel in Buddha's life before his enlightenment as well, called Mara, came to him. But as far as Satan and Jesus goes, Satan comes and says, I'll put modern language, hey, Jesus, yeah, you're really strong. You've proven you deserve a lot. Look out there. They're on a vast plain out in the desert. He says, look at all the lights of Jerusalem and all this. He says, I'll get you in there, man. You all the pussy you want, every fucking thing, it's all yours. Hey, right? And Jesus, get thee behind me, Satan. You're a liar. There's no power. He saw right through it. That's what that means, to get thee behind me, Satan. So we get to see our own ego that way. So it has no power. You follow? And then usually, as the stories depict, the creature that they've anthropomorphized and created dissolves. Like if you were to do it pictorially in a movie, it goes out of existence. That's what happens in your psyche. And that shit that was there before making you unhappy, it's not there anymore.
Because it's just an illusion anyway.
Correct. But when it's active as an illusion and you have no awareness of it, in other words, when it's operating like it likes to work in the dark, it has a lot of power. It can cause people to kill themselves.
Yeah.
That's power.
To think it's more real than reality.
Correct.
I mean, that is it.
That's right. That's right. That's the original ancient teachings way back, Upanishads, and prior to that, ancient Hindu teaching says that this world is, man takes the unreal for the real and knows not the real, or takes the real for the unreal if he hears about it. Does he hear about spirit? That's bullshit. That's people compensating. Whereas really the unreal is the compensation. All the mental shit that people are doing because they don't know their spirit.
Man, I was so lucky to have a childhood where I could have... Because a lot of this stuff is coming...
Yes, well, you see, you are very lucky. I'm glad you appreciate that. You've had the karmic good fortune, which was probably earned at some point in another life, to know the difference. See, you've got some what we call Vivek. Have you come across the name of a Swami called Vivekananda yet?
Vivekananda.
Yeah. Ananda means bliss. A lot of these Hindu spiritual names, when you break them down, the etymology is the bliss of the root part of the word that goes before it. So, for instance, Vivekananda means the bliss of having pure discrimination. In other words, seeing between the true and the false, or the real and the unreal, or the eternal and the transient, or what I really am and what my ego bullshit would cause me to believe I am. See?
Yep.
So Vivekananda means his teacher Ramakrishna gave him that spiritual name that says, you see clearly. See? And that's very interesting. We'll go into that story deeper one day, maybe meet the monks who descend that line of Vedanta, okay, or higher teachings of the Vedas. It really means the culmination of the Vedas. The suffix anta means the culmination of. Some people say the ending. So, yes, chronologically they come latest in the Vedas, but it also means the culmination, like the pure essence of the teaching that's distilled past all the initial ritualism and all that. So Vedanta means that. So this Swami Vivekananda, who's a historical person, he only died about 1930 or something. He came over here. You'll read about him. If you encounter this type of material, you'll have to. He's one of the great... He was called the Lion of Bengal. He was a very forceful personality. So he was a complete, modernized, westernized Indian kid. He poo-pooed his own religion. He was studying Greek and Latin. He was fluent in English and Greek and Latin. And people told him there's a holy man of high, almost an avatara, meaning like an incarnation of God, some guy that's gone really high, named Ramakrishna, that's over here. And he went there completely skeptical and doubting. And he said, if you're real, show me the God and the reality that all our sages and everybody's talking about. And the guy touched him here one time, and he said, no, please stop. It was too much, too intense. It made him know the reality. He dedicated his whole life. He became his number one spiritual son or disciple. Brought that over here. Vivekananda, very inspiring.
Wow.
I'll see if I can find, I don't have a lot of his works written, but you can find them easily. But I think I have one little book that's excerpts. It's called Sayings of Vivekananda.
Any of that stuff.
And that's what his name means. The bliss of having the pure discrimination. The word Viveka means the ability to see through. it means the best translation that I've seen is to discriminate, or maybe even distinguish is better, between gold and fool's gold. In other words, the real thing and the bullshit. And they say between the real and the unreal. You got to understand, whenever the word real is used in Hindu parlance, the main criteria they're basing it on is eternal. In other words, it doesn't change. So ultimately, you understand your soul is real. Sometimes the word sat, which I've used before for truth. And that everything else that comes and goes or changes, like your mind and your body and all the afflictions that go with it, those are unreal. Doesn't say they don't exist, but it's giving it different. They were brilliant analysts of phenomena. It has the reality of a passing phenomena. Modern parlance would say it's a movie. Movie doesn't not exist, but the content of it is not real.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You follow?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that
makes a lot of sense.
It's a good thing to understand. Yeah. They're brilliant because when the higher mind kicks in, the buddhi, Sting alluded to it because he's very much into that. He said their logic ties me up and rapes me because it's going to higher things that worldly minds can't see. It's like if we go up to a mountain, we could see so much going on below us, and the flatlanders are in here trying to figure it out down here. They don't have the perspective. You follow? So Vivek means that, and that will increase as you continue to meditate. You'll have a clear vision of what's what, and the times will come. You read the Gradual Awakening, he's saying it. What will really hook you and make you want to be on the path, and strongly it becomes an important thing, when you taste the freedom. When you have these experiences of seeing your own shit and realize, I'm not that shit at all. I'm completely free. I'm not that thing that I called Charlie or Damon, or I'm like so infinitely vast, and that's nothing. It's a memory, basically. When you feel that for yourself, not because I do, but because you do, that's going to be a major thing. All right. So here we have I believe, and I'll ask your opinion as well, a very good example of how the right understanding can deeply influence the practice. And then, of course, as the practice gets more correct or deeper, that will deepen your ability to understand. So, tell me if it makes sense, or give me your take on it, when we were instructed that to kind of become more like space and allow, originally it was the bell and then the sounds after the bell, to be just waves that move through space that don't affect space. Did that make sense?
It made sense, and I was already doing it before you even instructed it.
That's why you can know ultimately that that is your being. See, we are the space. We're not the objects.
Right.
That's the secret.
Because the vibrations were it was just vibrations.
Pass through?
Pass through.
Yes.
It wasn't like it didn't even go in my ear. It was just like I felt it.
I believe you have that experience already. So when we point it out and understand it with our intellect, we can more easily return and also be more vigilant or watchful to know when our mind is dropping back into believing the objects. You follow?
Yes.
So when we get caught in response to things, that means we've become worldlings. See, you could say a person on the path is a spaceling. You follow?
Good.
In this language.
Yeah.
And the person that attaches to the thoughts and the phenomena is a worldling. You understand? You could say an objectling, because all the things that come are objects for your awareness.
Right. And we're so conditioned to react to those.
Yes.
That when we're sitting, we can, if we start to react, then we know we're not deep enough.
And that's why, you see, that's why practice is necessary, because there isn't any way to jump to that from the object-believing state.
No.
You can't.
You can't.
You had to first calm down,
right,
as we've said many times, but it will reinforce it, because you see, when this ingrains in you that it's the truth, you practice take off like a rocket, you'll be able to really go far. You'll understand what the masters are talking about.
Right.
That's why I told you when I go to the woods, very easily, I feel what that scene is without me there. Like it's a contradiction to the thinking mind.
Right.
Well, how can you say that? Because you're there.
I understand.
That's the feeling.
You become part of the space.
Yeah, you're not there.
You're not there. Exactly.
It's pure. It's unadulterated by the presence of a human being or a human mind.
You're part of the vibrations in the scene.
It's like the same way that maybe an animal or a plant feels it. There's no self-reflective consciousness.
Right.
So they have a Zen poem. I don't remember it all, but the piece of it is, I wish I could, it's a beautiful, just a few lines, but the one I remember is, the still pond reflects the flying geese and knows it not. You know, just that's the way it all happens, like that. And that is filled with bliss. It's the conservation of energy. Any getting involved in the object world, whether inside your body, mind, or outside, is waste of energy from the spiritual point of view. You see? Do you understand? Does that make sense? Yeah. So, can you understand the fact, or how is it possible that the inside and the outside is not different? In other words, what's arising from what we would say inside your little microsystem of a body-mind, if some thoughts arise, some sensations arise, and then what's coming from outside, it's really not outside at the level of, it's a vibration that has to touch the ear, so it's already in your system, but we could argue with our lower intellect that, well, it originates outside, okay? But see, when you sit as the space, know yourself as the space, that distinction is not true.
There. Exactly. It's just vibrations.
Yeah, one Zen master said somewhere in another poem, I don't remember it exactly, but the phrase that came to mind was the inside and outside, just a dream. Yeah. The one guy that I like very much, the one who said, I sat down on the veranda and the evening bell rang, and then the morning bell rang. Right?
Yeah.
He called himself, well, came to be known as, he called himself Master Hanshan, but that's not a name, that's a mountain. Okay? But he hung around on that mountain, so he's called Master Hanshan. And that's like 8th century AD, you know, that's going back. And he called the translation of his autobiography in Chinese, the translation to English, it's called Journeys in Dreamland.
Oh.
His experience was everywhere he went,
right?
It was just like a dream. And that's the same thing you go before him, the ancient Indian mystics. They said, after the enlightenment, after the understanding, your life will continue for whatever karmic length of the life, but it will be like a man in a dream, or a woman, whoever. Yeah, and that's the feeling. So that means a dream that you know is a dream. So it means all the urgency, the fear, the importance, and it has to be this way, it can't be that way, or even that the body's going to die, and so on, you know, at the ultimate, it's seen as a dream. There isn't any perturbation. That's the state where I told you that other story I like, where the warlord he was machoing that one master, you know the story, when he said, don't you realize I'm the one who can really kill you? I'm not fucking around. I'm going to kill you and burn your whole monastery and everybody in it. In 5 minutes, you're done. It's finished. I'm the king. You know, and he was. He had his troops, and the guy couldn't defend him against that. And he said, we just looked at him, no bravado. He said, don't you know I'm the one who can die? And that was something the warlord, the egotist, had never seen before. He let him go, and after the war, he came back and said, please make me your student. I believe that stuff like that probably happened in history.
I believe that.
The only way that could be is that man had established himself fully as the space. It wasn't the case that, you know, so what he was saying, he said, don't you know I'm the one who could let the body die and be unperturbed. That's what it really meant. They phrase it, don't you know I'm the one who can die. It's more dramatic.
Right, right.
And that's why I could understand. See, the question is open. If a person really achieves that, Corey, deeply in their life, maybe after their body and brain mind dies, their whole consciousness might still persist, in the sense of maybe being an individual is what the Chinese are calling a Shen.
The Shen. Or dream.
Or some people are calling, an ascended master or something. Yeah. So that could very well be possible.
It could be.
We won't know for sure till we die. But I don't know for sure. We may know before if we go deep enough. Okay?
I think so.
Yeah, we
Remember
may know.
I told you.
Yeah, because you've had some experiences maybe I haven't had, so you may be closer to knowing.
Yeah. Like I shened, but came back. That's how I would say it. I was a Shen and I came back. Because it wasn't time.
So the language may not just be metaphorical. There might really be an immortality like that. Scientifically, we could never have any evidence in the lower mind. You could have inferred evidence, like if someone went to a mountain and got some instruction that they couldn't have gotten any other way, then you could infer. But directly, that always has to be within yourself to really know. But imagine if you established that while your body was alive, then all bets are off. You wouldn't be afraid of death or anything else.
Exactly. And then you would be able to say that, don't you know I'm the one that
Yes. The rest of your life would be relaxed, and that would mean your illnesses would probably go away or at least lessen, and you'd live a long life because you wouldn't be concerned with it.
Right. Exactly.
Whereas we're in the object state, it's life and death. I am the body and but you see how deep it is, because it's not only societal now, it's instinctual, because the creature, the cells want to survive.
Right.
See? But the Buddha said the last obstacle is the craving for existence. He meant in form, having a body somehow. He said that's the final barrier to break. And then when he broke it, he broke it at age 35. That's why he was a spiritual genius. He got up from under that tree and he called it Mara, the evil one. He said, house builder, your rafters are broken. In other words, the thing that built the house, that made him believe he was an individual body-mind, he wasn't all of space and all of the universe, that broke. He practiced hard enough that broke. You follow? So that was the victory. And he's filled with that bliss. And 7 weeks he sat in the same spot, just walked up and down the bank of that river and sat there, hardly any food. And that's the history. When he related his story, that's what the scriptures say. And they recorded that only about 200 years after he physically died, so it's probably true. That's pretty close historically. We can count on that. Like we could say with some accuracy, like our Revolutionary War or Lincoln. Those are probably pretty accurate facts. That's not that long in history. And then those monks revered it so much they were practicing, they kept it. So we have it today. So I put some stock in that report. And then he said, but it's too subtle. Who the fuck will understand it? And then he reconsidered. The Indians like to say the gods came to him and said, with your eye, look at everything and see there's beings with less dust in their eyes. And then he said, okay, you're right. So for them, I'll teach. And he started to teach. And we're using the teachings today.
Right.
So how strong is that? That's pretty strong, huh?
Exactly.
They call it turning the wheel of Dharma. 2,500 years ago we did that, and we're getting benefit today. Tell you to sit down and watch your breath and chill out. Right? I didn't make that up.
No.
Great masters understood long before we were born. But when we do it, then we confirm it. That was the point. They said nothing should be dogma. It all should be confirmed in your own experience. But we're like your elder brothers. We've walked away. We want to help you. So that's what we do. It's got nothing to do with ego, nothing to do with business, nothing to do with superiority, inferiority. So you see very clearly. Do you? I'm asking you, but I know you do.
Yeah, I do.
But I'm asking you so you can give me some feedback. How the practice that we've done so far made possible this understanding, and how the understanding deepens the practice. You see how they mutually support each other?
Or you get the understanding makes you want to practice more.
Yes.
It becomes like a craving. The understanding
That's the motivation.
Craves the practice.
Yes. I call it a fire that wants to, The Buddha said it too. Before he became the Buddha, before he had the full breakthrough, he passed a certain point. And I think I may have said it to you before. He says, now has arisen in me the light that shall not be extinguished. In other words, now I know what the deal is, and that's what I'm going for. Nothing else interests me.
Right. I get that.
And that's how it'll be. Because what else? What's the alternative when you've tasted the truth? What do you want?
You want more.
Right?
Exactly.
And what the world has to offer, what do you want? Jesus said it in different language. He said, what profiteth a man? In other words, what profit does he get if he gained the whole world but lose his soul? In other words, not know what he is.
Mm-hmm.
See, because you could use other language instead of saying space, you could say the soul. And see, the ideas of individual soul and all that, they're just lower ideas because there's only one space. Like I said before, we're here, there's a wall, then there's space in the house. Is it a different space?
No.
If the wall's broken down, you'll see, like this used to be two spaces.
Right.
You see it's one space now? So that's the Enlightenment. They realize everybody's one space. But it doesn't mean that there might not be, because nature does differentiate, it just doesn't fully separate. You see, that's an individual plant, and there's a cat, and there's two humans. But the field out of which they arise is
all the same.
one. So masters have talked about the ocean and the waves. So if you only know waves, you're confined to individuality. But if you're the ocean, you contain everything. Okay. So there's that element of us that is not material in any way. Whatever it is, we call it spirit or whatever. Right now, at the level we're at, these body and minds, we're dependent on a certain state obtaining in that body and mind to experience it deeply. You know, not just in our imagination to really feel it. We have to get quiet. But, you know, the masters say, that the logic in my mind also says, maybe that's not always needed if we progress or evolve enough. We could be the space without a body. And then the rise or fall of that body wouldn't really matter. Or that lower mind. It wouldn't make a difference. You'd be a shit.
Definitely.
And then everything that was below you, created by the mind, you would see as false. That means time and space, false. What do you think Einstein was getting close to in his intellectual mind? Because he was a deep soul, too. He didn't have the benefit of practices or a guru. He didn't know because he was a Western world. But had he met that, I'm sure he would have latched on and been intelligent enough. It just wasn't around in his day. And he was dedicated to the scientific time. But he was starting to see it in math. And that tells us that it's not just somebody's escapism, psychology. That tells us it's actually the nature of reality. When the scientists, with the numbers to back it up, show you that the universe has to have more dimensions than what we experience, because otherwise the equations don't work. That means there has to be underlying realities. And what the masters have always said before we even had the instruments to measure anything is that's kind of what we are. We're not the waves, we're the ocean. The waves happen in us. So when you can really feel that, then it really makes a difference in your whole life, your whole orientation toward even existence, toward being a being. You get it? And at least, I'd like to say, at least you know the difference. You have a standard of comparison.
Exactly.
And then it becomes easier to release and let go the unwise actions of others, because they don't have a choice. They only know the object consciousness. They have to believe they are every reaction in themselves. They have no ability to be still. No, they're the space.
They're just way down here.
Yeah.
We're way up here.
Yeah. In a metaphor, so to speak. And then we have to be aware of the conditioning that remains in ourselves, so we don't get out on a false limb somewhere thinking we're
gurus
big
or
deal.
something.
Yeah. So we then see both aspects in ourselves. And the advantage of having the deeper spiritual or space aspect is that you don't have to be fully stuck in the object aspect. Or we could say the advantage of knowing the light is that you never have to be fully stuck in the darkness anymore. You know how to get out. Do some Qigong, open your channels, sit down. That's basically all you have to do. You follow?
Yeah.
No matter what.
No matter what.
Yep. And as you persist in doing that through all trials, including physical illness, fear, and every situation, you get stronger and stronger, more able to do it. So it's like training. It's the paradox of training to be what you are. You get it?
I like that.
Yeah. And the New Age said, well, you're already that, you don't have to do anything, but because they were trying to bypass.
Exactly. They're trying to go from here to there.
Yeah, it's bypass. They don't understand.
don't
They don't
mind
even
practice.
know what it is.
No.
They just hear other people talk about it.
Exactly. And they regurgitate what the people say.
Correct. And after a while, it becomes very easy to just, I don't want to say switch in, but kind of realize the object state is false and the space state is the underlying truth. So then, even if anything happens, you recover quicker. There's less reaction. Like I said, the Buddha said, in the unevolved mind, an experience comes. It's like making a mark in stone. Or we could say drawing a line in concrete. I don't think they had concrete yet in his day. But, that's going to stay there, right? Not forever, because even concrete will erode. But,
Right.
but basically for the rest of your life, you may be
Right.
scarred. He said, then as you grow, maybe like things happen to you, it's making a mark in the mud. And as you grow, it's like drawing a line in the water. By the time, just think of taking your finger in a swimming pool and going like this. By the time you finish, track is gone. And he says, in the minds of the wise or the enlightened, or his mind, the Buddhas, anybody that gets it, it's like the tracks of the birds in the air. There are no tracks.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah, the more you practice, the more you'll see there had to be a real guy.
Right.
There had to be a Buddha. Nobody
Nobody
could say that stuff.
Exactly. Not
Nobody
without-
could say that
no.
without experience. Had to be. Same thing with
Had to
Jesus.
be.
They had to be real people.
Yeah.
That you get that privileged knowledge from your practice. That's like, I know they had to be real people. But somebody else, it could be or could not be. It could be
Right.
a romantic notion. I want to believe they're there.
Right.
They're great saints. They're looking over us. They're going to save my ass. And none of them said, I'm going to save your ass.
No.
They said, I'm going to teach you how to save your own ass.
Exactly.
That's all anybody real ever said. All disciples, people that didn't understand after that made that illusion.
Exactly.
For the common people.
Exactly.
Or for business. Or for all the wrong reasons.
Exactly.
Tracks of the bird in the air.
That's cool.
There are no tracks. Yep. Then all that poetry will start to resound right in your cells. The Great Way, that poem I had written there 25 years ago, whatever, that I showed you in the book. The Great Way is only difficult for those who pick and choose. Make not like or dislike, and all shall then be clear. So that means when you're spaced, the space doesn't favor one
Nope.
vibration in it over
Nope.
another. That's how you can sit there and be unperturbed. Did you notice it, the unperturbedness, when the hammer and the few
Yeah, I
other
didn't even
abrupt
notice
sounds
it.
came?
Yeah.
That's like I heard them, but I know there was no perturbation.
Right. Didn't bother me.
Correct.
I didn't get angry about it.
Right. Right.
I didn't say that's a hammer
Right. Well, right. So you didn't have a
reaction.
conceptual ripple, the first thing that wants to name it, and then you didn't have the secondary ripple, which would be react to, I don't like it.
Right.
See? And if those would arise, you just be space and let them arise and end.
Dissipate.
I say ripple out to the edge of the lake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Then they're gone.
Then they're gone. Yeah.
So the great Zen master, the guy Suzuki, who's this century, only died in 1975. And see, now you may be ready to read this classic book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. I'll bring it. There's very few people that are at the level of could read that and really get what he's saying. It can sound nice because the way he expressed himself, but if they didn't practice to the level of understanding what we're doing now, mostly it's wasted. But he said, don't expect water to be without waves. Sometimes water has waves. And his mind was okay. You follow?
Yes.
It was great.
Yeah.
And you know what his piece of beautiful genius, modern spiritual genius, this guy, his name was Shunryu Suzuki. And he said, I'll bring you that book, we'll start to study it maybe, because now you're ready to. He said, one way you can tell if your meditation is correct or not, he says, if you have a gaining idea, he phrased that in English from his Japanese. He says, if you sit down and there's some idea to gain something, you're still in small mind. Your meditation still needs a lot of work. That means anything. Am I going to get enlightenment? Am I going to be this, be that? Am I going to calm down? He says, when there's no gaining idea, he says, that is big mind. That is Buddha. You follow?
Yes.
Because that's what happens.
I don't even think that way.
Correct. You see, so it's going there already,
Yeah.
see? Because somehow or other, the preliminary work was done. My take would be, in your particular case, similar to mine, is that you had enough disillusionment of the world already that your natural intelligence caused a lot of your desires to die down. right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not out there looking for love and all that,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
So that's the case, but we had to go through those experiences, whether it was this time or before, however it happens. I don't claim to see all that yet.
Right.
But because the space has no desire, has no preference, that means it's at peace. See? It's full. And we're born of the other aspects that we've talked about in the past. So you see, it all comes together, and then that will become a center in you that will almost be a source of life. I mean, literally, I feel if you go into that state, you'll live longer without food or water.
I could see that.
Because it's a higher vibration.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yep. If you're stuck in the object state, you wear out quicker. That's why the sages retired to the caves and they end up living over 100 years and all. Because it's a source of life, because you've touched the source, not the manifestations. Like you've touched the Tao. Lao Tzu would have said you've returned to the root. You've stopped messing around with the branches. You follow? That was his language.
Yeah.
Trim branches endlessly, nothing really changes. Return to the root. Return to the valley, to the female, to the yin. He's talking about the space. That's what all the Tao Te Ching is based on that. So if you start then further to read the Tao Te Ching in the space consciousness, it's like you're with Lao Tzu. See? That's what I've told you why they left works. Because some of them, not all of them did,
Right.
but the ones that understood, because they knew they were a principle.
Right.
Jesus said it. That's why we know Jesus was real, because he said the same thing. Heaven and earth shall pass away, my words shall not pass. He didn't mean his words and concepts, but the message that he put into it. All the things that he tried to say, you know. So whoever enters that gets it. It doesn't matter where they come from. It just happens in our particular history that more of it, in a genuine way, was done in Asia. That's the only reason.
Right.
But like now, we're not Asians.
No.
And I'm sure we're getting it more
Yes.
than a lot of Asians.
Exactly.
You know? So it's not... and then I've seen the Master say there, he said, there's no Western mind or Eastern mind. He says, only mind. It's all illusion anyway. Which I agree with.
Yeah. Wow.
But the difference is they have some traditions that give them the proper direction and the proper discipline, practice. That makes all the difference.
Right.
And we know that already. You were already a martial artist, so you already know. That's how you get the results.
Exactly.
Slow and steady.
Slow and steady.
There's the rice paper every day builds the chi. And you see what's really happening? It's already happened. The plan of, in the Chinese, we've already transformed in some degree Jing to Qi to Shen. That's the three treasures. That's what they're talking about. The Shen is not a material treasure.
No.
You didn't do anything with it in the world.
No.
You could argue, well, the Qi, make you stronger and live long and use it in the world, have power, use it for martial arts, use it for healing. Okay, that's the middle stage, from the physical energy to the Qi, to the Shen, which is you rest.
Exactly.
The Shen is, business is done. And you sit in that state. And the only thing it requires is you to contact it more. So then you start sitting longer. It becomes natural, and like you just said very correctly, you want to. See? So the same Zen master, we're going to start working on Zen mind, beginner's mind. He said another way to tell if you're in small mind, if you have a headache and you're annoyed and say you don't want to have this headache, that is small mind. When you have a headache and you want to have a headache, that is big mind. He is great. I wish he was still alive. I would have gone to San Francisco to meet him. That's where he was. Came from Japan when he was like 50. Lived about 20 years in San Francisco.
Wow.
Died of cancer, and all reports right there, he was peaceful, dying.
Yeah.
He was unperturbed. He was still himself, so that proved that he was a master.
Exactly. Wow.
Yep. There's some, but not in that book, I don't think, but there's a further one. It's called Crooked Cucumber. And it's a biography, but very close with one of his students, so it's like semi-autobiography. He talked to him, and he always felt he didn't fit in, even with his own tradition. You know, he says, I was a crooked cucumber.
That's funny.
Yeah. And in that, I think they have some actual transcripts or reports of people that were right with him when he was dying.
Oh, wow.
So that proved his mastery.
Wow.
You know, he died and he was in pain and everything else.
Right, but it didn't bother him. He probably just went into the space.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
And he was, those Zen priests, not monks. He had a wife, and I think he had a couple of kids. You know, so it's like it shows you it's possible when your place is there. Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. I'll have to dig it out. I don't think I'll forget, but remind me.
All right.
It's somewhere in a box in a closet.
Okay.
I'll get it. It's a good thing you could get for yourself. I'm sure it was a super popular book. I'm sure on Amazon you'll find it for sure. Probably old copies for $2-3. But until you do, I'll bring it. We'll start to look at it next week.
Okay.
Because it does deal. And see what he was always saying? That the reason he named it that, he says, in a beginner's mind, there's all possibilities. If you become an expert, you're boxed in to what you already have known, to the past, and your ideas about yourself. You know, I'm this and I'm that, I've achieved this level.
Right,
or whatever.
right.
So to go back to beginner's mind every time. You sit down like it's the first time, you follow? That's what he meant. See, but if I didn't have the experience, other people that don't have it, they read that, it's like Greek. Or their mind latches on to some interpretation that's wrong.
Right.
You know, the way you know it's right is because it resounds in your, you get that feeling. It's called, if you want to call it the ring of truth. You know, you feel it. Got it. Like it's like if you and I were. It's like when you told me, do you see the furniture up there? Before that, I was ignorant, didn't see it, and then you pointed it out. Before I turned my head and looked, I don't know, even though it's there.
Yeah.
So I'm using that as an example. Oh, okay, yeah, it is there. You're right. So that's how the teachings of masters is like that. That's how you can tell. So the people that just don't practice, they don't even have a say in the discourse of masters because they don't have a reference base in themselves. So they're just sticking around, you know, just talking.
Right.
See? But now that you've come to this point of understanding these correct books of masters can be very helpful to you. At least, if nothing else, you'll appreciate them. You know, because we don't need anything from anybody.
Right.
But it's beautiful to see the history of people that have done this and that they're still alive today. This Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, that's one of my favorite books. It's very, very deep. But it's not something I'd ever recommend to somebody beginning meditation.
Right.
It'd be wasted.
Right.
Gradual awakening is the best start. That's what I gave to Damon, and he's getting a lot out of it. So, any further questions?
No.
Okay, wonderful. Keep up the good work.